Okay, we're rolling.
All right, this is an interview at the Delmar Place residence, Delmar, New York, the 28th of February 2006, approximately 10:45 a.m. Interviewers are Wayne Clark and Mike Russert. Could you give me your full name, date of birth?
I go by John R. Clark.
Okay. And where and when were you born?
When?
When and where?
August 11th, 1911, on a farm in the town of Clifton Park in Saratoga County.
I bet Clifton Park was just an open farmland at that time.
Yes.
Okay. What was your educational background prior to entering service?
Well, I went through the business administration program at RPI, and I took a few courses with Syracuse University while I was working at Albany.
Okay. Do you remember how you heard about Pearl Harbor and where you were?
Well, I know, I remember I was living in Glens Falls at the time, and it was Sunday afternoon, and I was reading the Sunday paper with the radio on, and I heard it over the radio.
Do you remember your reaction, how you felt when you heard about
Well,
this?
we were shocked, of course.
Did you know where Pearl Harbor was?
Oh, yes.
Did you?
Yes.
Okay, a lot of people didn't. Did you enlist or were you drafted?
I was drafted.
Okay.
Now, you would have been, what, about 30 at that time?
Around 32, yes.
Oh, really? Okay.
And I was married with 2 children,
Wow.
you're
and
still
everybody said I wouldn't be drafted, but I was. And they also said I wouldn't go overseas, but I did.
Huh.
And then they said, well, you'll never see combat, but I did.
So you were drafted in the Army. When were you drafted?
I don't remember just when. I think it was like in January or February, somewhere along in there.
Of what year?
It must have been 44, I guess.
Okay. All right. So do you remember where you went for basic training?
Macon, Georgia.
All right. What was the training like? Especially, you must have been the
Well,
grandfather
I was
of
in
everybody.
pretty good shape then, so the training didn't bother me physically.
You were probably older than most of the other recruits.
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay. How long were you in Georgia? Do you remember?
Whatever, I can't remember.
Yes, okay.
Basic training.
All right. Did you go right from there to overseas?
Yes. When I finished, I had a furlough, and then I reported back to camp in Maryland, and we then went to Boston and were shipped out from Boston.
Did you go in a convoy or a single ship? Do you remember?
It was a single ship. It was a big ship.
Now, did you go over as a replacement?
Yes.
Okay. When did you reach Europe? Do you recall?
No, I don't.
Okay.
I think it must have been like in June or July.
Of 44?
Yes.
And what unit were you assigned to?
I was eventually assigned to the 2nd Division.
Okay. When did you first meet combat, go into combat?
Well, we went, the 2nd Division had finished a campaign on, well, I forget the name of it, but near the beaches. And then we went by train to beyond Paris to the Maginot Line, and we went through the Maginot Line to the German line, and we were just beyond the German line. That was the first place where I entered combat.
How did you feel when you first went into combat?
Well, we were all pretty scared. But we had no face-to-face combat. We were just dug in both sides. And there was some artillery and some machine gun fire, but no hand-to-hand.
So no one was injured during that first skirmish?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
What kind of weapon did you carry?
An M1.
How'd you like it?
Well, it was a rifle.
Okay.
What about your personal equipment? Was that adequate? And your clothing, was that also adequate?
Yes, yes.
Now, you were involved in the Battle of the Bulge?
Yes.
Did you have winter equipment by that time?
I don't recall any particular. I know eventually I ended up with an officer's coat, and I didn't care. I liked the coat, but I was always afraid I'd be picked out as an officer.
What was it like during the Bulge? Did you go in to shore up the breakthrough when the Germans broke through?
Yes, we were there, and one of the things that I remember at that time was that the weather was very bad, and the planes couldn't fly. And then when the weather cleared, we saw that it seemed like hundreds of bombers come over, and they were subjected to fire, and some of them were hit, and we could see the parachutes come out.
Did you suffer from frostbite at all or anything like that?
No, that's a wonder.
Now, it mentions here that you fired a bazooka also?
Well, at one time, yes, yes. And I had my chance to knock out a vehicle filled with what appeared to be officers, but I was not accustomed to the bazookas, so that my fire was over their head, but it scared them off anyway.
Now, were you wounded during the Bulge?
Yes.
Could you tell us about that?
Well, we were advancing. It was after they started pushing the Germans back. Now we were advancing, and we entered this little village, and we were starting to dig in. And at that time, I was the sergeant, so I was in charge of the squad. And a shell came in, and I got a piece of the shell in my leg.
Now, were you sent to a hospital?
Yes, I was sent back to Paris and then over to England.
How long were you hospitalized?
Well, I don't remember. It seemed quite a while.
Yeah. Did you go back into combat after that?
No, I was then shipped home.
Now, I noticed you won the Bronze Star. How did you receive that?
I guess just because I was in the Battle of the Bulge. I don't know of any particular. I just caught it.
Now, how long were you in hospital? You were sent back to the States in the hospitals. Where were you sent?
Yes, I was in a hospital at Utica. I don't remember how long, but I know as I got up and around, I used to get time off to go home. I lived then in Glens Falls.
Your wound must have been pretty serious then.
Well, I was up and about. I still have a piece of shrapnel in my leg.
Does it ever bother you now, or?
No. I had a hip replacement recently this past summer, and the surgeon had hopes maybe he could get the shrapnel out, but it was a little beyond his.
Yeah.
But it doesn't bother me. So.
When were you discharged? Remember?
Well, it must have been in summer of 45, probably.
Okay. So you were in the hospital for the end of the war then?
Yes. Yes.
Do you remember how everyone felt when it was announced that the war ended?
Well, of course, it was still going on in the Pacific.
Right.
Well, we were very really. Well, it was, you know, at that time the Germans were falling back, so there was no question. At some point, it was going to end.
Did you worry about maybe being sent to the Pacific at all?
That never came up. So.
Uh-huh.
Do you remember hearing about the death of President Roosevelt?
Yes.
How did you feel when you heard about
Well, I
that?
think I was on the way back on the ship when it was announced on board the ship.
What was the reaction when you heard that?
Well, it was. I don't know. We were all separated in beds. So that,
Okay.
Did you get to see any USO shows at all when you were overseas?
any what?
USO shows or anything like that?
One time, yes.
Uh-huh.
We were sent back of the lines for a rest, and there was a USO show, and I can't recall the name of the actress that was. She was a famous actress, I know it.
It wasn't Frances Lanford, was it? Langford?
No, I don't think.
Okay. After you were discharged, did you use the GI Bill at all?
Well, I receive a payment because of my wound, but other than that, no.
You didn't buy a house with the GI Bill?
Well, they helped me get a mortgage. Yes,
Uh-huh.
they guaranteed my mortgage. Yes, I had to move to from Glens Falls to Albany, and the housing market was very tight. So I couldn't find anything to rent. The only way you could get in was to buy. So the bank was willing to. I didn't have any money, so they were willing to stake me to a mortgage.
Did you ever use it for any educational purposes?
I didn't know. I didn't have any. Well, as I say, I took some postgraduate college courses, a few of them in Albany under the GI Bill.
Okay. Did you ever use the 5220 Club?
No,
No. Did you join any veterans organizations?
no, I did not.
Never did, okay.
No,
Did you ever stay in contact with anyone that was in service with you?
no. I didn't get to know them.
Yeah, you probably weren't in with them that long. How do you think your time in the service changed or had an effect on your life?
I really don't know. I know while I was in service, the second division being a regular division, the people who were still left in the division that were regular soldiers, I call them, they were tremendous. But they were a pretty rough gang. They were not the kind you want to invite you to have dinner with you. But you're very happy to have them there.
How did they treat you as a replacement?
I never had any problem.
Okay. All right, well, thank you very much for your interview.
Okay.
Now, I take it your children are probably still living?
Yes, I have 3 girls.
Uh-huh.
Yes, they are.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay.